Thank you all for tuning in to Breathing is Highly Dangerous. We are giving our first breath, working toward and hoping for the next, all the while fearing our last. Welcome to the show.
No,
The event.
a little bit more grand.
The movement.
That's better, I like that.
The movement of the century.
Well, movement, that may be a little bit much. How about a conquest to ferment the ones ignoble that try to impinge their iniquitous veracity to our thoughts?
Look, man, do you want me to do this or not? Either way, I get paid.
Sorry, go ahead.
We've come to ask why, but never satisfied with a simple answer. Discovering the not-so-secret secrets. Playing coy into the ploy, kicking every rock, smiling with joy. Here is your host. He puts the U in unusual, the P in pterodactyl. Not just why, he also asks how. If you suffer from
Hippopotamonstros esquipedaliophobia.
please leave now. No one will believe you.
Hello, you all, and welcome back to the podcast, Breathing is Highly Dangerous. Today, we're in a little bit of a setting change. Not that those of you listening to the audio version will notice a difference, but there will be wind, a little bit of wind in this one. Again, unfortunately. But I'm here solo today. I've got a really sort of personal thing I want to share. In terms of, I think, well, I don't know. I think some people can relate to it, but well, I was just thinking a lot more recently about sort of, ambitions I've had in my youth and current ones I have, and the things that are reasonable and things that are reasonably in reach, and things that I have maybe overstated but not actually put efforts towards completing, and understanding what has prevented me from completing goals and reaching goals that I've set for myself, and why the goals that I still have for myself currently, that I don't work harder towards them, and I've really over the years developed more of a strategic plan to help mitigate sort of the use of terms in my vocabulary, in my mental considerations, such as later, tomorrow, not now, and things like that. I've really, it seems almost like I'm trying to give myself, because I've always been usually I've always been a more thoughtful, considering, mindful, and what's another word I mean? Calculated more and meticulous in terms of, I want as much preparation before I do go into something, before completing the action. And a lot of times in my past has contributed to me never completing something, because I've ran past a timeline, or projects not being finished by their deadlines because I thought too long about it and started too late. And but also with that pressure, with that time I give myself, it no matter the outcome of it, personally to me, it was never finished. But in terms of projects in school and work and things I complete in work, it's always been more than reaches the mark. Evidently, that last clip was not visually recorded, but that's all right. Now we're here with video. I was going back into so the way I think about the things, and this is not to say that the people that were rewarding me for my efforts in completing those projects, or giving me the grade that they believed I deserved, that's not to say that they didn't see that I could have worked harder or more due to the capabilities they knew of me completing projects when I had finished them with the with my process, with taking a long time to think about it and formulating a plan and setting it out. It wasn't that they knew I couldn't do better. It's that in reference to maybe some of the other students and other projects they've received over the years, it was outstanding in terms of the what it was being compared to, like, and I think that's for me. Now that I think back on it, I think that's a bit unhealthy, like, because being rewarded completely, like, even though you're doing better than other people that may not have put as much effort into, is like what you know about yourself versus what other people know about you and what other people are capable of doing, and you being compared, like your work being compared to other people's work when you have a capacity to do something better than other people, does not mean you're necessarily smarter or better than them. It's just that in these few subjects that you spent more time and effort into and giving your time and investing into learning more about these things. And I think what people not knowing about other people's capabilities or it's not even given a pass, because you're still being rewarded for that effort that you put in. It's like, hey, over time you just become better at this. You've been exposed to more of this, whether or not it was your choice to be exposed to it, or it was your choice to do research and all these things. Is like, the educational system, I think, should be a lot more individualized, and in terms of nurturing the gifts that each individual has, and then through finding that and seeking out individual qualities that one may possess, and then enriching them and educating them in everything, in all aspects of that and everything surrounding that. And I think that's a personal thing. People should want to do that for things that they're interested in, and that just takes a certain amount of what I say very often in my private conversations, is an awareness. And people have to have an awareness of what they are good at, their abilities, and put in effort. And I use a different word other than effort, but things, you gotta start walking before you can run. And that's it's literally, like, there's so many platitudes. I'm quite the platitudinous person in my personal life. Well, I try not to be currently, but I used to be quite that. But I speak in lots of, I use a lot of analogies, and I reference things to other things. So just to give an example of how principle is working in action, right? Like a parable or something like that. No, but I think when we are making a standard and teaching children all the same thing, right? It puts more responsibility in the time, in the individual private time of that child, to then go research more and learn about what they actually want to learn about, which is something I did, right? And something I and other students, right? Like, I would find myself interacting most with teachers. I said this in my other podcast, Mic Check. It's on my Manny Stewart YouTube channel. It's in the Danger Indifference episode 2. I speak more on that there. It's not a hard thing to understand, right? But in order to implement these things and these changes, which I believe everyone wants, right? Because all adults currently know what they learned in school, right? Or not know, but they understand the subject they learned in school if they have recollection, right? But in terms of the content and the topics and the information given within those classes, was that retained? What is the retention of that information? And how and because of that retention, how much was that information useful to them in their current lives? And when I would say, and this is being very generous, I would say 80% of adults currently do not use most of the information that they learned within the secondary and primary school educations, right? In terms of, and other than their language classes, which they use on a daily basis, and maybe basic arithmetic, right? With that said, right, adults understand that. They say that they tell their children, hey, yeah, I don't remember how to do any of that when they're trying to help their homework. And that's especially telling in this time, right, where children are being sent home and the parents are the ones that need to help their children do their homework, right? And do sort of corrections and all that stuff, and parents are having to relearn this stuff. And it's like, hey, yeah, I remember learning that. I haven't used it in the 20 years that I've been out of school, and I don't remember. And the child is at a disadvantage because the parents' retention is. But that is so telling in a profession depending on the profession of the parent, these things, most of the things that we learn are not needed to survive, are not needed to live well and for, work and employment in today's age. I believe there should be a basic structure of education, like the not Common Core, which is what a lot of these schools, especially in America and are sort of abiding by, and with the competition of other countries, and because that's really what it really is being competitive with other countries, like who can learn the more. Is like, but what are you really learning? You're learning something for this moment, this instant, for this test, right? But then what's the retention, right? And then you're marking down the children that can't learn as quick. It's like, you've got this certain set curriculum that the teacher can't go outside of, even if the teacher. That's the real problem. Is who's teaching the kids? Because why, if teachers are okay with doing this to these children because they're doing it for a paycheck, right? People are doing the job that they're getting paid for. So that shows a bit of integrity toward about the teacher and about the districts and of all these things, and the people who there's always a money trail, right? So people are making money. What is the reason you're making money? So why do you want these certain things? And that's something. Those are details that you got to research by yourself, because a certain way I give information, I tease that information, right? I tease at it, so it gets into your ear gate. It's like, where did that come from? Like, I could tell you where it came from, but me telling you it does not make you learn anything, right? You have to want to know what it's about. So if it's ever requested that I go more into depth about certain things, I would more than absolutely love to, because I that is something that I have a passion for, which is bringing awareness to others, bringing awareness first and foremost, and then if someone asks me and is that enthralled with the description I gave about awareness, making them aware of something, and then they want to know exactly what I know, or exactly go into detail about it, then I love sharing that in private. But on a public scale, I think it's just my responsibility and anyone's responsibility that has a voice in any sort of fashion, right? Which mine is a limited voice, because not many, in terms of scale of thing, in terms of scale, there's tens of people that listen and watch this, but there are other people out there that have thousands and millions of people listening, and I can't say enough. I mean, you may be well intentioned with the information that you spread and give and share. However, the way you present the information is very deceitful, and it has, there's more than one agenda to it, because you're doing it for money. Right now, I'm not making money on it, on this, right? I'm spending more money than I'm making in terms of having, yeah. So, but I don't go into that because this is something with a passion. I have to, it's an investment for myself, because whether or not I make money off of it, just in having the knowledge that people listen to this and could be getting something new from it, and give a new perspective, which is why I like having guests, because all this stuff, like this is a long time coming for me, right? I've just realized that keeping certain thoughts to myself is selfish, right? And things that I think I'm so frustrated with people not understanding is like, why don't they understand? Because they don't know. Who's telling them? No one's telling them. So that's on me, and that was for the people that care, right? Because no one cares. If you're here, then you care to a degree, right? To listen, to have some connection, and I appreciate the audience that I've gained from my guests here, and I mean, maybe you won't watch this because it's a solo dolo one, but and that might be quite unfortunate, but for those of you that do listen to this one, I appreciate it. But let's get back into the original conversation. Sorry for going off on track. I make connections. I like going off because everything is so important, because there are so many things that people miss, and so many things that we need to be made aware of, right? And this is a long time coming for me, because I was made aware at an early age, which I think is it's beneficial. It was a good thing, but it's also, at a time in my life, it made me like a megalomaniac at an early age, and it makes me feel, older than I really am. If I tend to believe how old I really am, I got issue with that. But that's beside the point. There's a timing issue with the age of the Earth. So everything. No, but if we go into the integrity of people, and what the motive is, and what the gaining, what their I don't know, it's not ultimatum, but their agenda, right? For having this sort of structured, because when you structure education, you structure the mind. So what people know, right? So and who's in control of that? Currently, the educational system is completely controlled by the government. So it's a government given education, whether it be private or public. Public is just, that means it's public funded. Private means private funded, but the curriculums can be similar in terms of that. And then if you're in a religious school, then you're going to have a religion based curriculum, which just imparts the religious text and literature, right? And as well as Common Core education, because that is a standard of the governments that you're abiding in, because they still have to take those common tests, unless you're in like a homeschool program, which there's a certain special education where they may dive deeper, right? So that's in terms of primary and secondary educations, right? When you get into universities, you get into colleges, the education, right? Then my issue with that is the formulate. So at that point, unless you were one of the students, right? Unless you were one of the students that involved themselves with what they wanted to do, and they had an understanding of what they wanted to do within secondary education, right? And you prepared for that, and you went to the right school for the right thing you wanted to do as a career, if you want a career, right? Then if you're one of those students, unless you're one of those students, which it's hard to be when your education is structured, but those students are out there, and they're not rare per se. But if you've done that, then your college experience, your university experience is going to, when you have that choice of the major you go in, you've got these other classes you've got to take, mandatory classes towards that major, right? So you've got to go through these things again. Sometimes there's like revamps of not revamps, but you've got reteachings and but going a little bit deeper into classes that you've already learned, and then a lot of reminders and stuff, and then you got it's really preliminaries classes to get into the information or learning how to process information and structure your time in terms of time management as an adult and all that stuff, yada 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 yada. That they say high school prepares you for college. That's the biggest lie. And middle school prepares you for high school. That's a lie. That's the biggest lie, right? I mean, depending on you're educated, depending on your headmasters, depending on your principals, depending on your teachers, that may be it could be the case, but that depends on the interest in the students and interest in actually giving them the way the education is structured, the way they personalize, or the way they special. No. I mean, this is not the best condition, not the best framing, but the message is important. I was saying, I mean, this is what is called resistance, and a lot of times when I do something that I think may be necessary for my life, right? There's always these things that start happening, right? Like whenever I'm on the right path and doing and thinking everything's going to plan, there's certain things that happen that sort of, some people say, oh, it's self-sabotage, you don't really want to be successful and you're drawing negative energy and all that stuff. Like, no, I think there's, oh my, how long has something been on my nose? I apologize for those of you watching video. No, but people are saying, I think, so personally I think, like, there's equal and opposite, right? So whenever you're doing something good, there's going to be things that come in your way as challenges for you to overcome. So those things are also supposed to be learning experiences. You're supposed to overcome those. You're not supposed to let those stop you. So it's going to see who's actually who's most strong-willed and who craves and is so invested and willing, right? So it's willing to complete go through a plan that they have and set forth and not be hindered by the obstacles that face you. So that is something that maybe earlier in my life and before, I would have just stopped, like, yo, I'm not trying to have my equipment break, it's just a few scratch on the screen, it's like not that big of a deal, it's in the face of camera. But hey, it's not as important as the things that need to be shared and need to be told and people need to be made aware of. So it's all, you process them, you file it off, and it takes a while to do that. It really takes the hardest thing to influence is and to start and to change is a mindset, and to if in the way of working positively, right? You can. I think it's easier to be. I don't know. I can't say any. I can't really think about that because is it easier to be positive, negative? I tend to be a positive person, so it doesn't matter. It's like whatever. It not matter how hard it is. It's like that's the option. I mean, I have options of being negative or being positive, of being constructive or destructive, and obviously, in my life, I make mistakes. I make them all the time. I make them often, and and some things I do are self-destructive, which is something I'm working on. But in terms of scale of things, the infrequent and the things I do destructive nature are self-destructive mostly, right? Mostly, which is also a problem. But we're all a work in progress. But besides that, going back to the education system, and maybe the condition of this. So right now, I'm on a roof, right? I'm on the roof of a mall of some sort, and it's November, and it's a bit nippy. So it's setting yourself in uncomfortable positions, where you know that progress can be made, even if you know you're going to be uncomfortable. I know that being here is somewhere like just having the high of things, because I think it's really telling of like just naturally of where I enjoy being, which is very high places and very low places, which are some uncomfortable positions for most people, right? But I enjoy those places because I like to see a different perspective that a lot of people maybe are uncomfortable in. But that's where I find my comfort is being high above everything and low below everything in life, searching for the information all the way on top, right, and searching for the information all the way on the bottom, when I have access to it, right. And then sometimes the access is restricted, or sometimes there's no what do I call it? There's no seemingly easy way to get there, and there's all these types of things that are standing in your way, like these obstacles, which maybe legally or morally you shouldn't go there. Which I mean, sometimes I cross those restrictions. Sometimes I know what then not to cross again. Like when I see those same type of boundaries and stuff, that people set their own boundaries, and I mean, but then some people are intentionally blocking information, which you should then seek to destroy the blockade. But you need to know when to pick those fights. And that's something I want to discuss further with the guest. So that was my little delve into that. No, I didn't even speak about everything I wanted to speak about. I'm not done. I'm continuing. Give me a second. Sometimes I get off track and I think I'm like, I didn't even wrap that up nicely. Give me a second. Let me get back to, because the camera throwing off, the falling in the distractions. I get distracted quite often because I can talk about literally anything. So anything that happens is a new pathway for conversation for me. Like anything. Like sometimes I'll never finish what I'm talking about. I'll tell you a story 6 months ago, and then you come up to me and you're like, "Hey, remember when you said that?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What did you mean by that?" I'm like, "I didn't finish it." So let me finish it. Give me a second. But I mean, not many people are that interested in me. But let me see what I was going back to. So the efforts, the integrity of teachers, the way you structure education is the way the mind is structured. So the hardest thing to do is change your mind. The hardest thing to do is change your own mind and get into a cycle and a progress and a mental curriculum of setting processes in order for how you think and how you process information, which a lot today we will talk about. Yeah, I have to stop. Technically, I want to talk about this with a guest, because that delves into the reasons why. And I want someone else's feedback and not just tell you my thing. I want someone to bounce off, right? No, but I think I think most people in these professions of teaching have good intentions. However, working with a process and a structure that has been set up this particular way, whether or not they were aware of it themselves and their education, like they're already so invested because they have student loans to pay off. So this degree that I got is I have to use this degree, and whether or not I know enough, like did I know enough? Like, and then what am I teaching? Am I teaching anything that is specific to what my degree applies to? It's like, what was this? Like that's what I had a very hard time, and I had to have years and talks with myself about what information is necessary for me. What do I want to do? What in terms of, and how can I get that information? What means, and in the current situations I'm in, these things are not feasible. So how can I get there other way? Like otherwise, right? And I've come to find out, and especially in today's information age, why does university exist? Why does college exist? College exists in itself, I believe, only for structure and for proof, and the degree is proof of being structured within this particular institution, and that's where you get the echelons, you get the different levels of educational like the leagues of education. So depending on where you're educated, you were structured this particular way. And some people may look down upon particular institutions and look favorable on others, and it's all just so if you go to this school, you think you most likely think this way. If you go to this school, you most likely think this way, and I think that I think the education is needed. The structured form of education is what is contributing to the downfall of many people and society in itself. I'll delve into it at a later time. But I really appreciate everyone that listens. I said I was going to keep it a little short. I'm going to keep it a little short. So let me know if you want me to dive a little bit more into that. I'm going to have my social media links in the link below, and tell me about topics you would like to hear me speak on, if you'd like to hear me speak on any, because I'm going to speak about anything I want to. This is my show. All right. I would like you all to be blessed, stay blessed, implement change in your lives, positive change, constructive change, and understand the destructive nature of yourself and your mind and the things around you, and see what you can change and change those things. All right. Be blessed, stay blessed, and I'll see you all later. I love you, and you should love yourself correctly. I'll speak on that later too. All right. Cheers.